So welcome everyone to today we have as a guest speaker for our brown bag series, David Bustillo Murillo. He's a graduate student at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, and he completed his undergraduate education in biology at the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Honduras, where he worked as an instructor in various lab courses, such as in environmental education, medical biology, histological techniques, and ornithology. His main area of research is related to biodiversity conservation programs, especially for resident and migratory birds. He has worked with the Mesoamerican Development Institute as a research coordinator in Yoro Biological Corridor area in Honduras. As a research coordinator in Honduras, he studied birds that validate the integrated open canopy system as an alternative for conservation of birds in coffee crops. He has also been involved with the Museum of Natural History of Honduras, the Museum of Zoology in Costa Rica, and with the Laboratory of Ornithology of the UNAH. David has done work with some of the coffee farm where IIC gets coffee for our fundraiser that we bring to all of you, or some of you that are in keen. Okay, David, I'm gonna pass it on to you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure sharing with you my project in Honduras. The project is Integrated Open Canopy, coffee as a conservation strategy for Nearctic-Neotropical migratory and resident birds in Yoro, Honduras. We know that the coffee is a very important product. It is legally marketed in all the world, but the principal region where the coffee is produced overlap with the rainforest. You can see this map when the region of coffee production is the same the tropical in the tropical region. In principle, the coffee production is cultivated in very high altitude, between 1,000 and 2,000 meters of height is overlap a lot with the rainforest. For this reason, we need to look for a strategy for conserve the biodiversity in that region. Traditional, we have two types of coffee plantation. Some coffee crops that doesn't include canopy, in the biodiversity is very low. In the shade coffee crops, characterized by the presence of canopy. This presence of canopy led the shade coffee had a high biodiversity. And sometimes the shade coffee need certificates. You can see two pictures. In the left side is an example of some coffee. Is all several hectares of coffee only. In the right side, you can see an example of shade coffee. You can see the plantation in the understory. In the see some tree of shade in the canopy. For an area, if you have the satellite picture of shade coffee, it's very difficult to identify for forest because the canopy is trees, very high trees. And the new strategy on the new system of coffee plantation that we had introduced is Integrated Open Canopy. Consists in coffee plantation that include a patch of native forest and a minimum plantation forest ratio of 1:1. This creates conditions to conserve and restore the forest, and also the amount of shade when the coffee plantation can regulate for the farmers, because the farmers had to regulate the shade for control some disease of the plant coffee. For example, the roya is an example of this size can control, regulate the shape of the plantation. You can see an example of the integrated open canopy. In the left right is the forest part, and in the right part is the coffee plantation. Our goals was determine if the integrated open canopy coffee is viable habitat for the conservation of the Nearctic-Neotropical and resident birds. We will compare the richness of Nearctic-Neotropical and resident birds in integrated open canopy coffee, as well in traditional coffee plantation in forests. And compare the abundance of focal species in integrated open canopy coffee, traditional coffee plantation in forests. Of the study size was in a Suriname region. It's a region that the majority of the first people produce coffee. The altitude is between 900 to 1,600 meters. And the habitat in the region are two principal types of forests: the pine oak mixed forest in the broadleaf forest. The coffee plantation is in all the region. Sometimes some farmers cut forest, pine oak mixed forest or broadleaf forest for plant the coffee. So we need to look for alternative for conserve the broadleaf in the big oak mixed forest, because are very important for the biodiversity. For collect data, we use point count. The point count was 15 meters of radius with 10 minutes of observation. The 10 minutes was separated into interval. The first 5 minutes we use passive observation, and in the other 5 minutes we use a playback of the owl Glaucidium brasilianum. We put 1 point for site, except in EOC coffee or integrated open canopy system coffee, because in the EOC farm we had two regions or two parts. The coffee plantation, you can see in this picture, the red area is the coffee, in the green area is the forest. So we put 1 point in the forest area and another point in the coffee area. The distance minimum between that point was 100 meters. And the distance minimum for the points between other systems was 500 meters. For the analysis of data, we use rarefaction method for estimate the richness in every system, and for compare the richness of 4 categories of birds: all species, resident species, Nearctic-Neotropical migrants, and forest-dependent species. We use GLM with Poisson line for estimate the abundance for system and compare the abundance of the focal species. We use dissimilarity analysis, especially multiple response permutation procedures, for know if the community of the birds is different between systems. If for complement the MRPP analysis, we use also the permanova. And finally, we use a multi-level analysis of pattern for determining which species is the indicator of the systems. All that analysis was carried used as software R. About the Richness, we found interesting results. For species in general, you can see that some coffee is the system that the Richness is very, very low, is the lowest. Also, the sun system for resident Nearctic-Neotropical migrant in forest-dependent species was the lowest. But for species in general, the shade coffee forest EOC coffee was no significant difference. For resident species as well, there are no difference between forest EOC coffee and shade coffee. But when we watch or when we look for neotropical migrant, you can see the integrated open canopy forest, integrated open canopy coffee, shade coffee, and forests are very similar. The very interesting observation in this Richness was with the forest-dependent species. The forest in the integrated open canopy forest part has the highest Richness. About the abundance of the focal species, we will show some example for it. The Setophaga pennsylvanica is a migration or Nearctic-Neotropical migratory bird, and there are no significance between forest, EOC coffee, and shade. There are no difference significance, but this system, the abundance is higher than the sun coffee. The same pattern is for another migration species, Neotiltavaria. The sun coffee is the system that had the lower abundance. But when we see the forest-dependent species, for example, Myioborus miniatus has a higher abundance in forest and EOC forest system. The abundance is lower in the coffee plantation. Also, the Mionectes oleagineus is another forest-dependent species. The abundance is higher in forest and EOC forest. The result of the dissimilarity analysis show that forest and integrated open canopy forests are the system more similarities or similar according to the NRPP. This result is supported by the permanote when you can see the EOC forest with forest, the similar is the lowest, but it's not significant for the permanote. This part. That shows the EOC forest, the community of birds in that forest are very, very similar according to permanote. For the other part, the sun coffee is more similar with EOC coffee plantation because EOC coffee plantation, the farmer can regulate the shape in the plantation. Some EOC coffee are very similar to sun coffee, and another EOC coffee plantation are very similar with that shape. When we look for the indicator species, we found another interesting result. For forest, integrated open canopy forest, three forest-dependent species are the indicator species for that forest: Myioborus miniatus, Mionectes oleagineus, and Ilocaris leucotis. All the species are significant. For EOC coffee and shade coffee, the indicated species are Melanerpes aurifrons and dividibis, are species very tolerant to the disturbance. And for shade coffee only, Titira semifasciata is the species indicator. Titira semifasciata is frequently found in the canopy of the trees. Because the shade coffee has a lot of canopy, I think that Titira semifasciata is like the canopy of the shade coffee. The results are similar when the found for Chandler in 2015. Chandler make investigation use mist-net in coffee, in shade coffee, in integrated open canopy coffee system in forest. If he found that the forest-dependent species are higher in EOC and forest than in shade coffee. And the importance of the integrated open canopy is we can show that it's very important for the forest-dependent species because it creates conditions for conserve and restore the forest. The forest is very important for the birds. Allows the presence of Nearctic-Neotropical migratory birds in recent years. This is because the integrated open canopy system share characteristics of the shade traditional coffee in this region, as well share characteristics of the forest native of the region. Because that the integrated open canopy can support forest-dependent species and migratory species. The integrated open canopy coffee is valuable for the conservation of Nearctic-Neotropical migratory birds and residents because it supports both the birds that live in the forest and those found in the traditional coffee plantation. The integrated open canopy coffee supports population of forest-dependent species which are not found in shade coffee plantations such as Mionectes, oleagineus, and Myioborus miniatus. This study was supported by the U.S. National Science Foundation, as well as funding for Tulane University, J.H. McDonald Foundation, U.S. Forest Service Northern Research Center, the U.S. Forest Service International Program Migratory Program, and the Mesoamerican Development Institute. We want to thank to all the farmers of the region because when the permit of the farming this research we couldn't know possible. And thank you so much for the invitation. If you have some question, let me know.
Thank you, David. That was an excellent presentation and a really great job done with your research. So yes, now we will be opening it up for questions. You can popcorn questions or share it on the chat. Either way is fine.
Great talk, David. Thanks.